Okay, so now we are sitting down with Kyle, the owner of Galactic Quest here in Lawrenceville, Georgia. He has 2 stores, the one we're currently in Lawrenceville, and then he also has another one in Beaufort, Georgia. And we're going to talk to him, and we're going to pick his brain, and we're going to get all of the dirty facts about being a comic book store owner.
Which has been how long now?
31 years.
31 years.
April 1991. To really, for some reason lately, it's really been coming into perspective for me how humbly we started this. It was a flea market, and I had $300 in cash and $300 worth of comics. I mean, it was just like my personal thing.
Okay.
And every weekend, I was working at Quick Trip, and every weekend I'd go to the flea market, and within a year, the world had just, it was a whirlwind, and it continued to grow and build, and I started to realize that I could potentially make a living off of this.
Okay.
It was very much so a boys' club back in the 90s, and of course, I don't want to go too far back, but essentially when I was younger, it was comics are for kids.
Sure.
That mentality.
In sharp contrast to how it started, because back in the platinum/golden age, it was everybody. It was you see them often in old films and things like that. Somebody's got a comic book. That was normal.
Yeah.
It wasn't. They weren't doing that as a joke in those old films.
Mm-hmm. And then certainly we were raised. I was raised in that environment of comic books. And for the longest time, I would get people that walk in the door and they'd go. And I love when somebody walks in and I can take them from that to, oh, there's something here for me.
Sure.
And, I love sharing the joy of reading and supporting the artists. And I never thought that this would be my calling. When I was a child, I drew my pictures and enjoyed my comics.
Sure.
Certainly never thought that the MCU would turn out the way it did. It's been amazing to see that boom, how it took over Hollywood. And certainly we're getting to that point now where we're kind of taking that for granted. That familiarity kind of breeds the dismissiveness.
Breeds contempt.
Yeah.
As the phrasing goes, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I always appreciate the fact that we did start out from very, very humble beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And my stores have survived the ups and downs, and now we're very much so, getting back out there again. I miss the community. As everybody knows, the last couple of years we haven't been able to be that community to the level that we used to. And so certainly to share that story of that humble beginning, I've broken out the old photo albums and started sharing those early memories, because as you get older, it's the early memories that you still remember. You start losing what you had for breakfast, that stuff goes away.
Sure.
But yeah.
And you're getting to shows more often now?
Yeah.
I know there was a lapse because of the whole virus situation or whatever, but you're getting out to the shows. And we saw you at a show just recently as well.
Yeah, so I don't like to work really, really hard.
Oh, I see.
And shows are hard work.
Yeah,
for retailers.
Staging and then breakdowns. Yeah.
So I had some cheat codes. Okay. I would go in and I'm a writer and also to a certain degree an artist. Mm-hmm. And so I'd bring in my box of books that I'd created, and very blessed to be able to go across the country. Did Chicago a number of times, did New York a couple times, of all things, I did CatCon LA. I actually was able to take my family out to LA. And of course, at CatCon LA, nobody's expecting comic books. We were the only comic book retailer there. And so it was just my books, and we sold enough to justify the travels and everything.
Okay.
And so the only state I haven't been to is Florida yet, which is odd. But
it's right there.
It's right there, yeah. But I've definitely been fortunate enough to see all these shows. Denver was really interesting because looking at all the different vendors, there was not a lot of Silver and Golden Age there because Chuck from Mile High had just scooped it all up. And I've got more Silver Age and Golden Age in my stores. So each show has its own personality.
Yeah.
What Atlanta really has that's great is all of the toy swap meets and the toy focus. I think that Atlanta is the capital of cosplaying, but Dragon Con's not a comic promoting convention.
Yeah.
And certainly that's changed over the years. It started out as Atlanta's unique in that it does have a lot of homegrown conventions. It's not a very corporate convention, and so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and that's kind of been, I notice also, this little side note, we'll leave it there, is it's been that corporate convention mentality's been kind of wearing on the community somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah, it has, and certainly I really appreciate all the organizers, all the hard work that goes into it, the people that come out and support it. Conventions are a very unique beast, and on the one hand, there's multiple approaches that I've taken to conventions. We're fortunate enough to do we're invited to Dragon Con to run all their Magic the Gathering tournaments.
Okay.
And that turned into 10 years at MomoCon running all their card gaming. And I really love card gaming, but it got to a point where you reinvent yourself, and you have to keep discovering new facets of the fandom that makes you go, yeah, this is awesome, I love this. And so with conventions, certainly you get to a point where it's like, okay, I've seen a lot of pop figures, there's a lot of pop figures. And so everything kind of, over the years, you get this picture of, wow, I remember this era. I remember when this launched. I remember how big pops were going to be, and sure enough, they delivered. It's love the different aspects of when people get together, bring out the stuff they love, and are able to trade that stuff and talk about it, obsess about it. It's a great environment.
Yeah, you do a lot of gaming here?
No, not as much as we used to. We had 32-hour gaming marathons. Did about 15 of those. Yeah, after it's kind of like the midnight movie release. After you've done them a few times, even a lot of the card game companies stop doing the midnight releases. You just kind of get burned out on. You still love it. I still have people that walk in and hey, you played the Star Wars card game back in the day? Yeah, and there's a instant like. The guy said that I haven't played that in 20 years, and I'm like, yes, if I sat down with the cards with you, I could teach you and you'd pick it up like that again, because it's like once you play the card game day after day, you remember those aspects, even no matter how complicated the game is.
Okay.
And we do have Yu-Gi-Oh gatherings all the time.
Sure.
I did the Yu-Gi-Oh regional qualifiers for about 15 years there. And with the shutdown, it's like, okay, it's nice not having this workload on me. Because when you get 500 guys in a room playing card games, it's like, so we did one more after reopening just to finish up on my terms, and that's important. I follow through. I complete certain passions and services to the communities, and the Yu-Gi-Oh players. Without Yu-Gi-Oh, we might not have made it through some of the difficult times.
Sure.
So they have an entire room for themselves downstairs, which you've seen.
Yes.
And so card gaming community right now especially is going through some interesting challenges. Magic's making some interesting choices. So Hasbro. So they're making some interesting choices.
So you're not just a retailer. You're into this stuff.
Oh, I'm into this stuff.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the reason why I do what I do is because I love it.
Sure.
I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I want a Spider-Man car.
Yeah.
And for the next 10 years, we're driving Spider-Man cars. The number one thing for me is I fully believe that comic books have the potential to tell stories that no other format can. in a way that no other format can. And I grew up with it. It's part of what's the center of what I love. And so when I had the opportunity to actually create, George Lucas created an entire thing, and I was 10 years old, and that was it for me. I was like, I'm in. And
it was a cultural phenomenon.
It was a cultural phenomenon, yeah. And now you look at the cultural phenomenons, and certainly there's some notable ones. But the 80s were a very special time.
Well, and I've talked about this. I think I've done it. We did a video on this. We might have, if I remember correctly. It's the difference, because what happened to all of these, especially when they do a reboot or something like that, you're taking a cultural phenomenon and you're looking at it in terms of a franchise.
Right.
And when you do that, whatever it was, whatever the magic was that made it a cultural phenomenon in the first place, you're missing it.
Yes.
You're missing it when you're just like, okay, how much can we make off this?
Right.
And there's so much more to it than that. And if they went back and looked at what made it a phenomenon, they could do it again. And I think we speculated on that with Cobra Kai. They went back and looked at what it was, what the fans liked about it, recreated it, and it turned into a lot more than they expected.
I think the guys behind Cobra Kai, probably had those stories in their head for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they really passionately wanted to make it happen.
Instead of just saying, oh, here's a franchise that made a lot of money back in the 70s or 80s, let's reboot it. And you lost something.
I fully respect, Galaxy Quest does not need a sequel. Do not, Tim Allen.
Oh, I've heard that a bunch of times.
Let's enjoy what we have, appreciate what we have. And nobody expected that movie to be a cult classic.
Oh, yeah.
I still remember when I called up DreamWorks Studio and I'm like, this movie better not be bad. It's got my name and my store on it practically. And they're like, don't worry, it'll be great. And it was the same year that Star Wars.
Oh, they always say that, though.
Yeah.
Everything's great.
But they sent out, they did it right. They sent out a care package for all the fans. They gave us the theater a week in advance. And it was, oddly enough, we put so much into Star Wars Episode 1. It was my year's focus for that. And to cap it off with that Galaxy Quest movie where I didn't have to put all that work into it and I just enjoyed it with my friends, it was cool. To the point is that when a creative team or an artist or a writer or something has this very specific vision, sticks to it. That's what I love about comics, is that they can afford to do that, because you don't have $200 million going into a story that has to, be.
You better produce or else.
Yeah. The pressure is not there. The Hero Cats book was $2,000 for the first issue. We took it to a few conventions and done. So there were stories there that I had to get out, that were inside of me, that I had to prove. I had something to prove with those stories. And when I no longer felt that the stories were coming naturally, I really struggled, because on the one hand, here's the strange thing. When you have fans that are like, when's your next issue coming out? It's been a few years now that I've got some done. They're ready to go. But it's been a few years since we've actually published, because of the obvious reason. Yeah. And when you get those emails and inquiries, you feel bad, because you want to give more.
Yeah.
But and the Ghostbusters fans, they want more. But do they want more? If we have that asking for more.
Yeah.
But when we get more, we're not happy with what we get, and because you can't always capture lightning in a bottle. No. Twice. And so
same argument with Firefly.
Oh God!
Everybody loved the first season, and they go, "Oh, when are you bringing it back?" 10 years later, in conventions, on panels, are you going to do Firefly again? Do you want it back?
Right.
Are they gonna pick it up right where they left off, or is somebody gonna tinker with it?
I have so many people that come in, and I talk about Firefly, and so many of the customers, what's that? And it's okay,
it's fallen away.
Yeah, and that's the really strange thing, is that with all of these, they have their moments, and we try to hold on to those moments. And certainly, it's painful when people don't share the same passions that we share. But that's one thing about that I've learned through this process is that when I meet a stranger
Mhm.
and they're passionate about something, it might not be my jam. I might not be into it, but
Everybody's got their thing.
everybody's got
Yeah.
their thing, and I respect the fact that they've dedicated, their free time
Mhm.
to learning or enjoying one specific creation by a creator, writer, artist, whatever the case might be.
Okay. Direction. Now, thinking about it, because if you're reading comics for a long time, and I imagine you collect comics,
Mhm.
have your own stores. Do you see the comics, the industry, and what they're producing as
So
a
let me get
whole
my crystal ball out. Hang on, just
going?
a second
Yeah.
here.
How do you feel about the direction?
Let me check my phone notes. Let me check
'Cause-
Twitter or Facebook or whatever. They're not.
Don't listen to them.
Okay.
Because I know one argument we make a lot, because we read a lot of the older stuff,
Right.
is a lack of dialogue.
Oh yes.
In
so
particular.
it's very, very. It is a stark difference, and I don't know if it's culturally that it goes all the way back to Sesame Street, the short attention span theater type of stuff.
Mhm.
Is it because I think that back in those days they knew that there were millions of kids and adults reading those comics, so they would put their hearts and souls into every single page and every
Mhm.
single panel, and the writers wanted to express everything they had on their minds. And today it's a different beast. It's the variant covers. It's it has changed, but it's still here.
Mhm.
We're still here, and there's still those gems that can be found and shared. And there's a few books right now that I'm just excited because it's tapping into the old school. I mean,
Okay.
someone out there was like, I'm gonna get the license for Frank Frazetta, and how long has he been dead now? And who remembers? I remember.
Oh, yeah.
It was a thing.
His art was phenomenal.
His art's amazing. Well, there's an entire comic book series that's being created, and I begged the publisher. I've been in communication. I begged, do not
Sure.
restart with a one shot. Do not do a mini. Do not do any. I want to see issue 50 of this book,
Mhm.
because how easy it is for those publishers to relaunch, reload, regurgitate in order to
Oh,
get
sure.
that number one sale. And it's very tempting because everybody needs a jumping on point. And 2 years from now, if you miss the boat, where do you jump on? The graphic novel, yes, but it doesn't have that same collectability as the original issue number one. So I understand the tough position that the publishers are in, but there's publishers that are trying to do the right thing. I did 27 issues of Hero Cats.
Okay.
Marvel can't get past 10 issues on some books.
Yeah, nowadays it sure seems that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there are people out there that, and publishers out there that want to honor the past.
Okay.
But we as consumers have to support that.
Yeah.
And certainly
Vote with your dollar.
vote with your dollar.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, there are comic book stores in this nation, in this country, that they in certain areas, they could have done better. We all can do better.
Mhm.
But it's not a perfect system.
Mhm.
We have to order 2 months in advance. We have to
Oh, yeah.
risk and take chances. And but
For
when
those of you who wondered, and 2 months is probably a conservative number.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing where the supply chain right now,
Mhm.
that is a thing. That's the reason why Christmas is a little bit different this year, is because all these retailers were having such a hard time getting the inventory in. Well, it all came in. We ordered it 8 months ago, 6 months ago, and here it is. So it's a flawed system, but it's fun to. It's just nice being part of the party,
Sure. Oh, I understand. And,
Yeah.
that's why we do what we do. We
Yeah.
just enjoy it, want to share with the community and learn more and share more and have a good time while doing it.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh,
Yeah,
and
we
the
talked-
crystal ball. The crystal
yeah,
ball.
the crystal
we were talking
ball
about.
too doesn't hurt.
To answer the question.
Yeah, yeah.
I honestly, I don't know where the comic industry will be 5 years from now. I always had a 5-year plan. I always had, I always wanted to, I had my goals, always had my goals. The nice thing is I feel like at this point, everything is a bonus. Whatever
Sure.
The industry holds, we made it through a very rough time. I'll be forever grateful to DC Comics for getting those comics back in the channel again.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly Marvel has they've, the distribution change and so forth has been the biggest. What changes are coming down the road, how our sales going to fare, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm okay with, I used to fret about that. I used to lose sleep over that. At this stage,
You're comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
Sure.
I'm happy. So I certainly hope that the industry is strong for years to come. I certainly want artists to make an incredible living. But the creators of this product are faced with the real challenge. I've employed a lot of artists.
Mm-hmm.
To do the Hero Cats thing, we worked with like 30 different artists.
Okay.
And so I very much so understand what artists have to go through. I just wish
Well, a lot of them aren't very well appreciated, and they put out good product.
they put out very good product. I mean, they put their hearts and souls into this
We
stuff.
see a lot of them and talk to a lot of them at the shows.
Yeah.
And they try it.
Yeah. And they get caught up in some real challenges, and they have families, they have bills to pay, and they're chasing the dream. They are chasing the dream, and
Sure.
some people have it, and it's nothing is guaranteed. Whether you're going into the music business, which is even worse than the comic book industry.
Oh yeah.
Or you're going into the movie industry, where you're going to be a background person or the person that's leading star. They've got problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think any one particular industry is immune to the ups and downs or the whims of the consumer's preferences. We like what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Let me ask you here. This is a hot spot for a lot of the people that watch us too.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on grading?
Okay, that's the fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't even get them to
Sure.
agree on which company. But,
Sure.
I mean, just because there are like diehards, and it doesn't seem to because with us it's either or.
Yeah.
I'm fine with some stuff graded. Yeah. We get tons of loose stuff, but there are some people that are it's one way or that's it, and they'll get mad at you.
So here's what I love about this industry.
Uh-huh.
We can obsess about a comic that has gorillas. And the only thing I collect is gorillas, or I want nothing but 9/8 graded books.
Mm-hmm.
I want nothing but my favorite writer or my favorite artist or my favorite character. And so CGC specifically has maneuvered themselves and done a phenomenal job of creating an environment which requires their services. Mm-hmm. And that's their job, is to, as a third-party grading company, to provide a service. Mm-hmm. And they are providing the best service that they can possibly provide. Is it perfect? No. Is it frustrating? Of course.
It can be, yeah.
Incredibly frustrating. Is it important for me to understand the process and understand the whole system and so forth? Yes, I've been to CGC's headquarters. I've
Mm-hmm.
walked in the door and dropped off some amazing books and been very happy and very disappointed.
Sure.
Always have reasonable expectations. Reality is reality. The book is the book. You can't make the book what it isn't.
Yeah.
And for professionals that consistently deal with older books, it's not as critical to have that third-party grading system.
Okay.
Certainly, in a number of cases, it's beneficial. There's a percentage of those books that I just flat out have to get graded, and I want them graded. It's only fair to the consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And
because otherwise it's purely speculative, and that could.
Grading is an art. It's not a science. It's an art. Okay, grading is not like this. There's too many factors that go into it, and so it's important that the consumers learn, and it's also important for the people that are selling and trading to be, to have some transparency there. The interesting thing that I find with CGC is that you can have a brand new book that you'd normally sell for, dirt cheap. You pay the extra little bit, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, it's 10 times more valuable because it's been graded.
Yeah.
It presents well. It's packaged nicely. It's protected. It's, there's something there.
Yeah.
And the market, even though it's full of speculation in many instances, it's not Bitcoin. It's not.
Yeah.
There's some more stability here.
Yeah.
Than a lot of other. There's certainly been. I can tell you plenty of stories of things that I think are wrong, just flat out wrong and deceptive. And certainly it's. I think the baseball card industry has some challenges that the comic book industry doesn't have. So I'm happy to be able to navigate that. And certainly CGC wasn't around 20 years ago. Think about that.
No, I know.
Before CGC, I had an amazing collection, game-changing collection, and it wasn't. I didn't handle it as well as I would have wanted to, knowing what I know now.
Sure.
But you can't have seller's regret. You can't regret the past.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20, as they say.
Yeah. So, I know it's a controversial and a deep subject we could talk about for quite some time.
Sure.
I think CGC and all grading services, whether it be action figure grading services, because I've just started getting that. Action figures that I would put on the shelf for pretty reasonably priced. I spent a lot to get some graded, and there's some stories there. But they provide good service. They remove.
Because that's trickling down into a lot of different areas now. Your video games, VHS, cassettes, and it's all
I'll
over the
warn
place.
video games. I'll warn you about video games. There's videos out there about there's information out there that's easily accessible about grading video games. It's I'm waiting for them to grade manga.
It's coming.
What aren't they grading at this point?
Record albums.
Yeah, record albums.
Give them a chance.
Yeah, give them a chance. I can't fault them for it.
Yeah. There's a market. Somebody will fall into it.
I wouldn't advise to jump in with both feet. Certainly dip your toe in the waters if you like, and certainly I have to have a certain level of my inventory to be CGC, just because there's parts of the collectors. But I've sold raw books for a lot, record-breaking stuff, because I was comfortable with it, because I knew what the grade was, and the buyer knew what the grade was, and we knew what the book was. So, but people that don't have that information, it's there for helpful reasons.
Okay. You primarily operate out of your stores, or you do anything online?
I don't do anything online. I don't do live auctions. I don't do any of that stuff because I like to one-on-one, meet with people, talk with people. Certainly, that whole aspect has its appeal, but for me, I don't want to say I'm old school. That's the world changes, and certainly there's a great value in those things. I have sold online. I've done quite well with sales online, but it's not always about just the sales. It's to me, it's about connecting and talking about and sharing stuff. And I'm very, when I bring out something that is like, okay, I'm gonna let go of this.
I know that feeling. I sell occasionally, but I don't like to.
Right.
And it's just like, do I want to get rid of this? You get that kind of feeling, especially if you're really into it.
So I will kind of shed some light on. In the early survival years, I made myself a promise. and that was that I wasn't going to hoard, be the save all the good stuff for me, because I was as a retailer, I wanted to make sure that people walking in my door got the best of what I had.
Okay.
And so I had to over the years resist certain things, but recently, for the last number of years, it's like, okay, I really can't let this go. There's no way. I just can't let this go.
I know the feeling.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've turned down, amazing offers, because on the one hand I want to show people that look, and I'm going to show you some stuff that
Sure.
completely, but the reason why
I know what you mean, because
Yeah.
I've got like in our like little our toy museum,
Mhm.
I've got some stuff you can't find.
Yeah.
And I've been given offers before, and I'm like, I'll never find it again.
Yeah.
I can't let it go.
I want you're my friend. I want
Yeah.
to share this with you. I want to share the joy of the find with you.
Yeah.
I want to share the history. I want to share the artistry of the whole thing. But don't.
Yeah.
Everybody that walks in this, okay, there's a number of people over the time that have walked in and said, "What's your most valuable comic book?" And what a question always,
Yeah.
Um,
I've gotten that before.
Yeah. And to me, honestly, probably the most valuable comic book that I own is the one that I drew when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
And I had that Star Wars comic, and I had my paper, and I told my own story as a 10-year-old of Star Wars, and I still have it. It's, it looks like a 10-year-old drew it.
Okay.
But a good 10-year-old that drew it. That's,
Yeah.
And I still have the first comic that I drew that was my own character. And so if I'm to default to anything, it's the one that's the most sentimental. It's the one that means the most, because we go to work for money, and that money's that's all fine and well. But this is our escapism, and if and everybody has their first comic book that they bought. And hopefully they remember it. It made an impact. And so all the different books mean different things to different people. So that's, of course, there's the culture. It's very heavy on the card gaming about, opening up that pack, getting that card, and it's cool because it's worth this much.
Yeah, I know. We've seen the fights at Walmart.
Yeah. It's that's all. That's a part of it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But to me, I honestly love the comic. Just that somebody sat down and dedicated a portion of their life to tell a story that meant something to them, and tried like heck to get it out to the marketplace, and somehow made it. And I taught art classes for a decade, and to see some of those kids come back and, yeah, man, I made it, I did it.
Okay.
I can, list off a few people that I'm like, dude, you did it.
There you go.
And so that's what the industry.
Okay, we were talking a little bit earlier about Stan Lee. Some thoughts on Stan Lee.
So the one chance that I had, Dragon Con, years ago, I forget the year. I'm walking around and I notice Stan Lee off in the distance. And there goes Stan Lee. I'm going to stalk Stan Lee. So I respectfully, from a distance, kind of followed up this escalator into the side room. He was with some friends and so forth, and we're all sitting around. And he was just the coolest guy. I remember, handing him a couple of books that I'd made, and we talked about comics, and he was the coolest, grandpa you could ever ask for. He had that kind of spirit about him. And so 15 minutes go by, 20 minutes, we're all just sitting in a room talking with Stan Lee. So maybe 15, 20 people. And he leans over and says, "Are you going to announce the signing?" to the guy next to him, and the guy leaves the room, and of course, over the intercom you hear, "Stan Lee is now signing," and blah, blah. And of course, the line was 5 hours long,
Sure.
and forget it. So for me, I had an opportunity at other shows to meet him, but I never, because you're not supposed to meet your heroes because they let you down. Stan Lee did not let me down.
Okay.
He was just a great guy, and what a journey, what a life he lived.
Yeah.
So honored to be able to have that time with him, and he wished me luck with all my drawing efforts and so forth, and that's how I remember him, is that accessibility to the fans, and he really, really wanted comics to do well. He almost gave up comics, obviously, when things were getting rough there.
The Seduction of the Innocent.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've read that book. I've got that book.
Mm-hmm.
There's that whole era that, to me, I was collecting comics just for fun, and my neighbor, he's like, "My dad collects comics. They're collectible." And this was back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, your dad buys comics? What? I was a kid. I didn't understand what had happened, and for years I didn't understand what it meant to the art, to the stories, to have that kind of censorship. And
because I think that book put like almost 2,000 publishers out of business.
It was. I've seen
it was insane.
those books that came before, and they were something to behold. They were something to be treasured. So certainly, it was a necessary thing to have somebody say, "It's okay. These are for college students. These are for adults as well. It's not just for." Stan had the magic and ability to channel the joy in him into his creative storytelling, with the way that he would. Nobody wrote like Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
He was just. You could tell he was having the time of his life on the Fantastic Four. That he was putting his heart and soul in the Amazing Spider-Man, and certainly for him to helm a shared universe and juggle all of those concepts. I do think that today's challenge is that we look at how interconnected the Marvel Universe is. And Stan held that together. Everybody else, generations after that, just learned from him. And they did their best. So even though Stan Lee's not for everybody, he's for me.
Sure.
I love him. He definitely did so much for the comic book format, and I'd love for another person out there to really be that passionate about the material.
Yeah.
So, but so that's my take on Stan.
Okay. So I think are going to be doing a little show and tell then.
I think I'll bring out some gems, and
okay,
we can do a quick little run through. Sure.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
Okay, now we're going to play show and tell. We're going to take a look at some of the goodies that you have hidden away.
Very good. Okay. So let's start at the beginning.
All right.
Okay. So this is the first ever comic book published in the United States. This is from before the Civil War. This is called The Adventures of Obadiah Oldbuck, and it is a book that contains all the comic book story tropes that you can imagine. Romance, sword fighting, a chase on horses. It's got drowning. It's got escaping from jail. It's got cross-dressing. This is This is before the Civil War. This comic book is amazing history, and how this came about is that somebody called up the shop asking for, or saying that they had the book. They said they had the book. I want to see this book. And it turns out they were just wanting to know, what it was worth, blah, blah, blah. They saw it on a show and so forth. So that immediately, I got to own this book. I got to find this book. And so we hunted down a guy that had it out in California. got it in, read it at the kitchen table with the family, and it was amazing. It is as old as it looks, and you can read it online. It's been scanned, and it's online. And I will, for your viewers.
Uh-oh.
Oh, are we opening
We're gonna open it
the
up.
book?
Take a look
Now
real quick.
this paper is a couple hundred years old, so we're going on a journey.
Uh-oh.
We take the tape, we put the tape all the way
All
over
the way
there,
to the side.
all the way to the side, and you can see in there. It is black and white, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know how well you can see in there, but
I'm gonna get up.
there you go.
Yeah, he's trying to be protective
Real
of the
gentle,
spine
protective of
Yeah.
the spine, as you can see. But as you can see, it's a comic book.
Yeah.
It actually has all the dialogue and the art, which again can be found online. So I have had the fortune of being able to read that. I love history. I love thinking that this is signed. So there was a couple of guys traveling the United States by carriage, and they were proud of this book. And now here it is with us. All right, so we start at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then after we start at the beginning, then we certainly talk about the book that started Marvel, or actually started the superhero age of Marvel. Fantastic Four #1 is a book that I love because I read it as a reprint when I was a child. And so as a reprint, you just never think you're going to actually be able to read the original.
Sure.
And so the reason why this is not graded, and a lot of these are not graded, is because, imagine that, I'm going to read them. I've read a number of them, and I will continue to enjoy. Of course, we had the Spider-Man car for a number of years. And my daughter dressed up as Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man, of course, is near and dear to everybody's hearts, hopefully. The latest movie was amazing, absolutely fantastic. Amazing Spider-Man #1 with, of course, the Fantastic Four crossing over, which was revolutionary at the time, of course. Now, this one is incredible. This is Incredible Hulk #1, and I've always been a huge fan of the Incredible Hulk ever since Peter David wrote his 10-year run on the series. It's what got me back into comics as an adult. When they turned him into a bouncer at a Las Vegas bar, I thought it was hilarious. The fact that they brought him back as a gray Hulk and Joe Fixit, I just loved Peter David's writing. And it's what really got me back into comics as an adult. So, there's that book. Of course, we have something to look forward to, and that is the new X-Men series. As the X-Men enters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's just fantastic to be able to have a part of history in the collection. And so, that's X-Men #1. These are all, of course, books that true collectors and so forth have seen, but as they get rarer and rarer, the Avengers, we never thought, for a while there, the Avengers wasn't as popular, and that's the reason why the license in the movies didn't really, wasn't a thing, and why they were able to build the franchise off of the Avengers is because they still had that property left. So that breathed new life into the books, into the characters. And so Avengers #1. Of course, what launched the entire cinematic universe, Hulk did, unofficially, of course. But Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man just blew it away. Absolutely fantastic movie that changed the whole game and saved Marvel in a number of ways. So, Iron Man first appearance. And of course, we're all looking forward to Matt Murdock coming back, the next incarnation.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job in the She-Hulk show. Thoroughly enjoyed that. So Daredevil #1, fantastic book. All the history. These are obviously the books that everybody would love to have in their collection. Certainly, they've become quite difficult to find, but we have to treasure and cherish, as we're going along, the history as it unfolds. And speaking of history, let's get into something a little weird. You had mentioned the Comic Code Authority.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so this right here is actually the infamous Dr. Wortham's book, which, if you read it, to me it sounded like my mom talking to me about her understanding of comics. They're going to corrupt us. They're going to all that and so forth. Video games. There's always something that's demonized.
Yeah.
And comic books certainly were edgy for the 1950s. And the pre-code horror. Pre-code horror, of course, means that there's no comic code authority there screaming, hey, this is safe for kids. So a lot of the pre-code horror stuff is really cool when you've got skulls. And, of course, the women were always in red dresses. They were always in peril. There's a reason why a lot of those tropes are there, is because people certainly read them growing up. EC Comics.
Yeah.
EC Comics specifically. Now this happens to be a very tame cover for EC. It is certainly a tame cover, but it is part of a library where you were talking earlier about how many words were on a page.
Yeah.
EC was notorious for just having all that dialogue on there, and it was great, the balance of the art and the writing. So.
Yeah, you get a big fan behind the camera of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
The old horror classics.
It's good stuff.
It
Really
is. The
good stuff.
writing is amazing.
I mean, you got some creepy guy here and people hanging from the walls. This is the 1950s, folks. That was way out of left field for some of this stuff. And so a lot of these titles are treasured for good reason. They were destroyed. They were thrown away, and so a lot of these books are very, very unique read. Of course, when we get into the really, really hard to find stuff, that's when you get into early Superman. There's less than 100 copies of, Action 1 and Detective. Think about that. I mean, there's a reason why those books are so sought after. So, and of course, this cover here, you see the time capsule that it is. These artists didn't have Google to look up images to reference. They had books on their shelves.
Yeah.
And they, in many cases, especially in war, the best they had was a therapy to draw their experiences. And these are the superhero. Speaking of war, okay, so this is a victory garden. Now, of course, a victory garden is something that most people today have no idea what a victory garden is. It was the war effort. You weren't wasting money on, you weren't wasting resources on gasoline to go to the stores to transport the stuff. The staples in the comics were down to one because they needed that metal for the war effort. That's real. These books were capturing a era and a time that is lost to many, but as it's uncovered, as it's discovered firsthand instead of just in stories and so forth, it's amazing to see. So the Victory Garden with Batman and Robin and Superman there, definitely something out of the World War II era. Of course, what has made it to today is a lot of those hero characters, Batman and Robin, nothing beats Batman with a machine gun. Here's a character who definitely, his narrative about all of that is different today. Obviously, you won't see a cover like this on a Batman book today, and that kind of moment in time that when you see it and discover it, it changes your whole perspective on how the character evolved.
Yeah, it makes me think of the Captain Marvel movie shorts where he
Yes.
was like a murdering bastard,
Yeah.
just shooting people and throwing people off buildings and stuff, and you wouldn't imagine the current Shazam doing something like that.
It's definitely a different feel. The nice thing about some of the reprints from the Bronze Age is that it's affordable to catch those stories. But as those books are lost in time, that it becomes more and more difficult to find those books. It's just cool to. It's an honor to be able to, read them and discover them. Another Batman number 13. Now the thing about the old school covers that are black is that they show all the imperfections. So when you find that ink, that paper, and it looks like it just came off the newsstand, it's a thing to behold. It's absolutely amazing when it's so clean. And then, of course, the Joker.
Yeah.
This is Batman issue number 11, and I can't wait to read this book. I hadn't gotten a chance to read this book yet. So I'll be reading this book first chance I get to. So you were asking earlier about CGC, and certainly there's some books, these books are constantly CGC'd.
Yeah.
And understandably, they're very attainable. And when you see them in great condition, these I just acquired this past week, and I'll be sending these off to get these graded.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense that why not? Some books it makes sense to get graded. Other books I've had graded and I didn't get a chance to read them, and I regret it. So that's a little bit of the journey walk through history. Of course, my favorite character is Silver Surfer and Spider-Man. Spider-Man's it got such a history to it. I want Silver Surfer to be on the big screen. I want it to be done right. You saw the Silver Surfer statue.
Oh yeah.
So I always appreciate the approach that Stan Lee had to writing that character. And Trad Moore did a fantastic run of it recently. His Doctor Strange came out this week, and I'm looking forward to. I read that, and I'm looking forward to reading the whole series. And then, of course, Scarlet Witch. I really enjoyed the latest Scarlet Witch show. Elizabeth Olsen's done a fantastic job with that character. And everything that is coming up, we'll see. Hopefully, they knock it out of the park with the X-Men. So.
All right.
So there's a little bit of a show and tell, and
yeah, I guess we'll take a look around the store.
And we are at Galactic Quest.
Cynthia.
This is the new arrivals. Oh,
Who?
Nightwing.
No, they did not.
Yeah, I had that tree, and it came, in a box, and got it somewhere. I forget where I bought it, but it had a little blanket.
Ours didn't have a blanket with it.
She found that
Aldi.
big Aldi. And
Aldi a long time ago.
she's like, hey, it's after Christmas. They got these things for
Like $5.
$5. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm liking that.
Yeah, it was on a weird triangular box.
Actually, I think Aldi might be where I got it.
Well, we bought a bunch from
back,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we got a bunch of them.
Because it's like, yeah, it's a peanuts tree. I want it. Yeah. So.
Oh, here it is. This is it.
think we can. Oh no, we can't.
What?
I was thinking about can we turn on the radio now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Let's see.
Okay.
Are there just novels now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ordering the graphic novels instead. So that's fine.
And there's a graphic novelist and a book of history.
The order is very confusing, so that's good.
Oh, David. This right here. They did a reprint of this. But to see the original was great. Yeah, when we were doing that,
Fine.
can you imagine this back in the 1950s, the original?
That's fine.
It's just, I've seen a lot of crazy covers, but this one stood out. Oh, yeah.
This should be different. This should be different.
And you say you're into Frazetta?
Oh yeah, I like the art.
So, that's gonna be on here, check this out.
Okay. No. This
So,
so loud.
this is the
Weird.
actual,
And that also explains why there's been action figure licenses for this character recently too.
yes. I saw your opening of the Death Dealer one. They also have the,
They skipped on a poster. It's supposed to be a poster.
oh, really?
You know, the big two, that was a headache trying to get it something, yeah. It's like, well, no, just watching the
Right.
And then suddenly it's like, okay, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something missing.
We documented it, guys.
Yeah.
So, this is, an example of the, which I just need to write it. But, it's the art. And the publisher, I know challenges that he's facing. He's got a visual artist guy, because the artists don't always focus on, he's got good artists once in a while, but, even though he's got one, it's hard to really do that. This is the, this point, this, unless you don't want to, well, it's alright. So here on the cover, you're like, oh, it's gonna be the same thing, it's gonna be, maybe like a graph. And, so, when he shows up, he hands the body over to him. So he starts.
They're checking for you.
He starts something. And then. He's supposed to say.
You could do that unboxing video.
Didn't see that one.
Yeah.
And.
We could do part of that if
She
you
actually
want.
sat on the whole
Oh,
time.
that'd be good.
And of course, it was
Yes.
and so, but what's that? It's also got the sea witch. Which. Yeah. And here's your fill-in artist, but he very specifically, that's issue number
That's it?
5.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And he was tempted to do a one-shot.
That's it. Oh, and this is that.
Okay.
Right.
He'll keep numbering them and not restart the series.
Uh-huh.
But, that's the book that, because it's allowed me to go back into.
Hi, welcome.
I did one of those with Western.
Okay, sure. That's it. Yeah, I
know it's him.
think I'm good on these.
So it's pretty cool stuff.
But we can put them on.
There you go, that's what's fun. Literally just came. That's what comes out.
Oh, you're gonna get playing
I'm sure you've been in a bunch of comic shops. What do you think?
Excuse me, one thing that does stand out is we do have what we used to call wall books.
shop, so you go in. They don't have a lot of books like that, especially like this back here.
Yeah.
Back issues are usually pretty bad, to be honest.
I've seen some stuff. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're out of order.
And then you bring it up to the counter and say, oh yeah, that's not that much.
Let me look it up and pick
Wait.
pick a category.
Yeah.
But
I get to this point, it's too late.
It is
I probably should have
incredible.
seen it.
It is too late. Stop playing.
This is exclusive to do show. This is a
Well,
pretty
if, I do have, I didn't get a chance to pull up side of the definitions. Yeah, we do have.
Oh my god, I wish I could have the station.
Oh,
my one.
Actually, it'd be too much.
I can get it way really good stuff. So a lot of EC, really good stuff. But that's totally unreasonable. If you'd like, we're happy to. But, you know, certainly you're. But did want to at least check that out. It's been interesting. That good question. Obviously, Peanuts right now is the one that I'm most fixated on.
The order is very confusing, so that's fair.
Oh, dude. It's right here. They did a reprint of this. But to see the original was great. Yeah,
Fine.
can you imagine this back in the 1950s, the original?
That's fine. It's just.
I've seen a lot of crazy covers, but this one stood out.
This should be different. Should be different.
And you say you're into Frazetta?
oh yeah, I like the art.
So, that's gonna be on here, check this out.
Okay. No. My guy. No salad.
So,
So loud. This is
the
weird.
actual,
And that also explains why there's been action figure licenses for this character recently too.
yes. I saw your opening of the Death Dealer one. They also have the,
These kids are it's supposed to be a poster.
oh, really?
You know, the big two, and it was a headache trying to get it, so, yeah. It's like, well, no, just watching the,
Right.
and then suddenly it's like. Yeah, any shows coming up that you're gonna be doing?
Well, obviously the holidays is all about getting food. I don't want to commit to anything because then my employees can't spend time. And so, but come January and such, I'm thinking about obviously we're to do a toy show and capacity, but nothing but toys. There's a lot of prep work that goes into it. But that's
I thought it was gonna be a lot more comic.
I think anime.
I've done set up as it shows with comics, with games,
I watched the first episode of that on Netflix. It was funny.
Yeah, I would watch.
Plus we did
I
this
feel like-
festival.
It's just very simple.
This is a rock sister. There's like two guys that look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was especially. So,
One of my favorite
but
anime where
because
this person's like,
the number of diseases.
this person lifts up their shirt and it's just like pecs.
Oh,
There's a guy, yeah. I love those. Of course.
How heroes? Okay. Dump truck, fire truck, garbage truck, truck.
The way that it captured that feeling of being
Hello.
How are you?
so probably going to get out more.
Oh, that's a cool sign, okay.
I know that I've got some
What was that shoe again? Silver Surfer from that one movie.
Oh wow, I didn't even see this guy.
No such space, but it does look really good. I do think we do, it might be in our back swap, we'll just.
Kind of shot me down, my God.
And I know Sherrod just is like 14 at heart. It'd be really cool to like do rainbow. I brought it up to the these guys will like,
Thank you. You know,
That's
a deal.
Spy Family is so
never heard of this.
good. It's so cute and adorable.
And this room right here has just a lot of back issues. It's mainly modern. You'll see some golden age, not golden, sorry, bronze age, copper age kind of thrown in. And then, you know, you just have your other kind of books talking about how to draw and how to write and do all that kind of stuff like that. But yeah, this is Galactic Quest. I suggest if you're in the Atlanta area, you're close by, you might want to come and check it out. See Kyle. Give them a wave. Ooh, you know I'm all about the shadow. This is a newer shadow. Let's see. These books are just sitting here, so I'll just flip through it for you guys. Oh, I've seen this before. Wonder Woman and Superman. I like Wonder Woman for Superman better than that old Lois Lane. She gets on my nerve. But these, I guess they're just kind of sitting here. Batman, Superman, some stuff. But yeah, I've flipped through these before. You might find something. Like I said, these are mainly newer books, but they do have some Bronze Age in there.
Okay, LPH, who have we got?
We got Cynthia, and we got her daughter Anna, from Galactic Quest again. And Cynthia is a big advocate for childhood reading. And she's going to tell us how she, with her influence, helped the comic book industry for the youth.
Okay.
Yes, so my former profession was an educator, and I knew the value of reading and comics, especially for reluctant readers, had a lot of value.
Right.
And so once I got involved with the store back in the early 90s, I realized there wasn't a whole lot to offer the children. And so we stocked what we could in our kids section, but there were just very few offerings. And after a while, we were able to meet with some of the higher ups at Diamond Comics, and with a lot of different meetings, we were able to come up with kidscomics.com, and that helped a lot because it gave librarians and educators a reference to use to pick specific comics that were safe for the kids. And as the years went on, the kids comic industry grew to actually surpassing in numbers the mainstream graphic novel sales in recent history. A lot of creators like Dave Pilkey, Raina Telminger were instrumental in changing that demographic and just became top sellers. Scholastic did their graphics line, and that really propelled comics into the classrooms from there.
Okay, what age group were you targeting?
Basically, anywhere from like 5 and up.
Okay.
Like the Dogman series is very reader friendly. Owly, another one from Andy Runton, was a great resource because it basically is a wordless comic, and you can tell the story just through the pictures, and they're gorgeous. There's a lot of online like lesson plans and stuff that he actually has for educators, so that's a really neat one to use.
And you can use it for homeschoolers, because you
Yes.
have a lot of people that are big
Yes.
into homeschool.
Yes, and we actually were homeschooling, homeschooled both of my daughters in particular.
And how do you enjoy comics?
I just think that it's a good resource just for learning and for entertainment, and it kind of combines the two aspects. It makes it more entertaining and appealing for a wide audience.
Okay, and how long have you been in the comics?
All my life.
All your life, yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is going to go upstairs, because she has a section for young readers and just children, and we're going to look at that, and she's going to tell us some of the books and point out some things for us.
All right.
Great.
Okay. Okay, and we are in the young reader section. And we'll start over here, and just tell us a little bit about what we're looking at.
Okay, these are just a small selection of our young reader section. We have like the scary books up here, like Five Nights at Freddy's and things like that, which are very popular, based on the video game here. We have the Hero Cats of Stellar City and Midnight, which is actually Kyle's book, made locally here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So he wrote a book, and Kyle is the owner, and we're going to talk to him a little bit later.
Right.
Okay, so he wrote
all of this here.
Okay.
And then we have like our just different like sections here, cat, books. We have the My Little Pony, just all kinds of different things here. A lot of Pokemon books, and then of course the Dogman and Cat Kid series here, which is really popular. And then over here is the kind of the tween section here. Drama, Smile, all of that. Sisters here from Raina Telminger. A lot of other just kind of slice of life kids books. A lot of good stuff here. Bone is a big favorite one also. And then the Wings
I've
of Fire.
seen Bone. I didn't realize that was geared for children.
Yes, it's a great story. It's actually good for all ages. It's kid appropriate, but it's entertaining enough for adults also.
Okay, because I know the animation reminds me of Pinky and the Brain. When you see the cover, that cover animation. I've seen the cover of it before. Some people on other channels were showing it, and that's what it made me think of, and I thought maybe it was the same artist.
Right.
Okay, and what do we have?
This is our superhero all ages section.
Okay.
And we've got a lot of great new additions to this section lately. with all of these wonderful reprints of classic stories from Marvel. So you've got like the Hulk #1 reprints and some of the early Amazing Spider-Mans, things like that. Some really good age-appropriate superhero section.
And are you seeing a big influx of young readers
Absolutely.
being gravitating? Okay.
Yes, yes, it's very exciting.
All right, and we're gonna move over. You got another section here.
Another section here. Just a lot of miscellaneous kids books, Sonic, Peanuts, Bad Guys. We also specialize in like the leveled readers here.
Oh yeah,
Which
okay,
are really
yeah.
great when parents want to come in and get things that are age appropriate for their reading level. It's easy to find. It's all kind of just neat superhero books.
And you see that kids are liking the reading better because it's a character that they would see on TV, or Marvel, DC, or even Disney, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
It draws them in a little better.
Absolutely. I mean, most kids have a favorite character, and it's great to find a book featuring that character. They get really excited.
Okay. Well, we want to say thank you for showing us and sharing your passion of learning with us.